Let me tell you of the days of high adventure.
Hey there, nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and we are back with a brand new episode of The Golden Age, our series that is dedicated to Warhammer Fantasy Battle Reports for 8th edition Warhammer Fantasy. So as you guys can see, this is actually kind of a special battle report for a couple reasons. First of all, it's the very first battle report that we've done for a very long time on this channel. Unfortunately, when it comes to our videos, we really didn't have much battle reports going on during this time period. And the reason why that was the case is because, unfortunately, we just couldn't meet up to actually get games in, unfortunately. So that was one of the problems that we ran into when we actually did this battle report series. So that's why there's been kind of like a drought when it comes to my battle reports so far, because, unfortunately, we just didn't have time to meet up. Unfortunately, real life kind of hit my gaming group pretty hard in reality, so because of that, we couldn't meet up, couldn't get games in, so that was one reason why that was kind of bad. And the reason why this is also kind of a special battle report is because this is the very first battle report where we feature my Dogs of War army. So if you guys can see over here in the top here, this is where my Dogs of War army is. As you can see, all 3,000 points of this army is now fully completed. Looks absolutely fantastic. Fully completed, ready to play on the tabletop. All 3,000 points worth of it. So we're super excited about that. And for this very first battle report, we are playing against High Elves. So my friend Fresh Prince Belair will be going against my army, the Miragliano Mercenaries. So it's going to be very, very awesome to see exactly how this battle report goes. And another reason why this battle report is also kind of cool as well is because this is the very first time I'm actually using a gimbal. I actually got a gimbal tool that I can use to actually record these battle reports this time, so it looks all kinds of awesome. And it looks like it's kind of cool with the Steadicam effect that's happening. Okay, so with that being said, we're going to play some background music real quick. As the music is playing, we will show you photos of both armies as well as their army lists. If you want to see exactly what we're bringing for this battle report, go and pause and take a look at your own leisure. So with that being said, let's get this battle report on a roll.
Crom, I've never prayed you before. I have no tongue for it. No one, not even you, will remember if we were good men or bad. Why we fought, or why we died. No. All that matters is that two stood against many. That's what's important. Balor pleases you, Crom. So grant me one request. Grant me revenge. And if you do not listen, then the hell with you.
Alright, so let's go and talk about the House Lainel, the Silvery host of Caledor for the High Elves. This is deployment the left-hand flank from my friend Fresh Prince Belair. He's got 2 units of 5 Illyrian Reavers called the Word Bearers, as well as the Silent Striders. Both groups have spears, bows, light armor, as well as elven steeds. Meanwhile, making the left-hand side of his center deployment, he has the Silver Sentinels, which is a unit of 10 Silverhelm Knights with full command. They have lances, heavy armor, as well as shields, as well as running unbarded elven steeds. Now in the center, on the right-hand side of the battlefield, using a denied flank is where most of Fresh Prince Belair's army is located at. Starting on the left-hand side, that is Roastal Lainel. He is a Dragon Mage of Caledor, a level 2 wizard with the lore of fire. He's packing Fireball as well as the Flaming Sword of Rune. He's also packing Dragon Armor, the Sword of Might for +1 strength, a Charm Shield for 2 board saving against the first hit against him, as well as the Ruby Ring of Ruin. He's also riding Pyrite, which is a Sun Dragon. Right in front of him are 2 Eagle Claw Blowthrowers called the Reigns of Caledor, and the third one's on the very far right-hand side of the battlefield. Now on the left-hand side of the center, we have a unit called the Ever Wardens. The Ever Wardens are a unit of 25 Phoenix Guard with Musician and Standard Bearer. They're equipped with heavy armor as well as halberds, as well as packing the Banner of Eternal Flames. And in the center is the main unit for my friend. This unit's called the Loremaster's Blades. It is a unit of 28 Sword Masters of Hoeth with full command. They have great weapons as well as heavy armor. They're also packing the Banner of the World Dragon for that 2-up ward save against magical attacks. Now in that unit, of course, we got 2 characters. We have Lord Tywin Lainel. Lainel, the Silver Warden of Caledor. He is a prince who's also the general of this army as well. He's got heavy armor as well as a lion cloak. He's also packing Ogre Blade for +2 strength, the Shield of Merwyrm to give him a 4-up parry save, as well as a Talisman of Preservation, so that way he has a 4-up armor save, ward save as well. And also we have Tytos Lainel, the Loremaster of Caledor. He's a Loremaster of Hoeth, level 2 battle wizard with the lore of battle magic. He's got all these signature spells. He's also got a great weapon as well as heavy armor. He's also packing the Book of Ashur for +1 to his casting and dispel, as well as a Talisman of Endurance, giving him a 5-up ward save. And finally, on the right hand side, we have the Dawn Guard. The Dawn Guard is a unit of 23 Lothern Sea Guard with full command. They have spears, bows, light armor, as well as shields. And leading that unit is Tanis Lainel, captain of the Dawn Guard. He's a Lothern Sea Helm with battle standard bearer. He's also got a spear, light armor, as well as shield. He's also packing the Reaver Bow. And that pretty much makes up my friend Fresh Prince Bel-Air's deployment on this one. So moving across the battlefield, we have the Miragliano Mercenaries, my 3,000 point Dogs of War army, and on my left-hand flank I have a unit called the Thugs of Tabaro, which is basically 5 Stratiotes with light crossbows as well as war horses. And that makes up my right-hand flank on this one. And nestled up at the right hand side of the battlefield is the rest of my army. So starting in the back, that is the Cursed Company. It is a regiment renowned, led by Richter Kruger. He's got heavy armor and shield. He's got the Blight as well as his magic weapon, as well as the Dark Gem of the Curse. He's got 30 skeleton warriors in this unit with standard bearer as well as a musician. He's got light armor, shields, hand weapons, and the Banner of Malediction. Now right in front of them on the left hand side, that is the Lucchini rifles. 20 handgunners with standard bearer as musician. They got handguns, light armor, as well as devices. At the same time, I also have up in the front there one of my gun batteries from Bronzino's Galloper guns. It's got a warhorse as well as a gun battery 3 crew as well as a pack horse. And right meanwhile on the right hand side, that unit of course is my major unit, which is my Perazzo's Lost Legion. It is a regiment renowned. It's got led by a man named Perazzo. It's got hand weapon, crossbow as well as heavy armor. The unit's got a standard bearer as well as a musician with 20 crossbowmen, 26 pikemen as they're all packing light armor. And leading that unit is a couple of my characters. First of all, we got Gorlock Blackpowder, the Saint of Sartosa. He is a merchant prince who's the general of my army. He's packing a brace of pistols as well as a shield. He's also got the Ogre Blade as well as Armor of Destiny. He's got the forward march stratagem as well as riding on a bartered warhorse. In that unit is also his Nightmare Ninepence Nicolo, which is hireling wizard lord. He's level 4 wizard with the lore of shadows. He's got Melkos Mystifying Miasma, the Enfibling Foe, the Withering, Occam's Mind Razor, as well as the Staff of Fickle Fortune and the Talisman of Endurance. And then finally I got 2 special characters named Gotrek and Felix. Those are my special characters. Gotrek's packing Gotrek's Rune Axe and Felix is packing Wormslayer. In the back I have my Revolt, that is my multiple shot weapon called Le Estase, as well as my mercenary great cannon called Le Agonia. And then right in the front there I got another one of Bronzino's Galloper guns with Bronzino himself. On the back right hand side, that is the Golden Company. It's a unit of 26 Paymasters, bodyguard, musicians, as well as standard bearer. They got halberds as well as heavy armor, as well as the Midas, his bodyguards upgrade. And the reason why is because leading that unit is Midas the Mean. He's my special character, is also my Paymaster. He's got the treasure map as well as the crest of Midas, a paid card, as well as Sheik Yadush special character. And he also has his bodyguard units. And then finally, on the right hand side, that unit is called the Verezzo Gunners. It is a unit of 20 handgunners with standard bearer as well as musician. They're packing handguns, light armor, and devices. And that makes up my units for this one. Alright, so now that we're done with battle plans as well as deployments, let's go and talk about our battle plan real fast. So first of all, I do have my work cut out for me. My buddy Fresh Prince Bel-Air does have a pretty heavy center over here with his forces. As you can see, most of his infantry scattered over here on the right hand side with his bolt throwers, followed by his dragon mage over here in the back here, Rostam Lainel. He's got his silver helms as well as his Reaver Knights. Pretty much my plan is to do this. I'm planning on concentrating on his infantry forces, which I should be able to do pretty easily. And the reason why is because all my guys have forward march, so I did move up 6 inches all my infantry units. So that way they're in handgun range. That way I can whittle these guys down with some handgun fire, probably take out some guys with some cannon fire. If I can, try to take out some of his forces using my Revolt, which is located back there. At the same time, to try to finish him that way, and then hopefully I can countercharge with my infantry forces and take him out that way. The only big fear I have, of course, that my flank is somewhat exposed. And the reason why is because over here, I do have to worry about the only defense I have on my flank are really my unit of Cursed Company as well as my Stratiotes. But that's basically kind of like the gambling I have to work on this one. So hopefully I'll be able to pull this off one quite nicely. So now that we're done talking about deployments real quick, as well as battle plans, we go directly to the top of turn number 1, and both Fresh Prince Bel-Air and I will all for initiative to see which of us will be going first. Alright, so that takes directly to the end of turn number 1 for the movement phase on this one. As you can see, my friend Fresh Prince Bel-Air got to go first. So those are basically his movements after the movement phase. As you can see, for the most part, he just kind of sends his up, just kind of moves up kind of gingerly for the most part. First of all, the first thing he does, he actually sends up his cavalry. He actually marches them over here to the left-hand side. Pretty much marches them for the most part in order to try to go and now flank me on the left-hand side, going against my thugs at Tabaro, who are all by themselves at this point right over there as well. So because they sends up his Silver Sentinels as well as his Word Bearers. Meanwhile, the other unit of Illyrian Reavers have also marched up as well to try to go around me and try to flank me through these buildings, which is kind of crazy at the same time. Now, while he is doing that, of course, he's also sending up his forces for his infantry forces right over here in the middle. Basically, he does a couple of things. First of all, he marches up his Phoenix Guard, moving up their max moon lance right directly in front of his cannon, as well as to my handgunners over there on the left-hand side. At the same time, he also does exactly the same thing, moving up his White Lions a trace for his Loremaster's blades, using the trees as cover for the most part to kind of protect most of his fighters. At the same time, he also moves up his Lothern Sea Guard as well in order to try to intercept me on the right-hand side. Meanwhile, his bolt throwers for the Reigns of Caledor stay exactly where they're located at, and that pretty much makes it the move phase for this one. So the move phase over with, we go directly to the magic phase. Alright, so we're back with after the turn number 1 for the magic phase from our friend First Prince Belair. A couple things happened. First of all, Tytos Lainel does magic cast Mysticos, Mystifying Miasma. Milikoth's Mystifying Miasma. Magic cast it directly onto my Lucchini rifles. So because of that, those guys now have -3 to their ballista skill. So now those guys only have ballista skill 3, which is actually kind of sad for me. So kind of disappointed for that one. At the same time, it's also get out of Mistons and Wildform for his last spell directly onto the Dawn Guard, giving those guys +1 to their strength as well as +1 to their toughness. Now, I was able to do that because he got it off Irresistible Force. Unfortunately for my friend First Prince Belair, he did roll a 6 on the miscast on that one. However, though, it didn't really cause that much problems. The small template goes off and explodes, but he's also got the Banner of the World Dragon on this unit, so they have a 2-up ward save against magical attacks, so he loses 2 white lines, so no harm, no foul for the most part. And that pretty much makes it the magic phase for this one. So with the magic phase over with, we go directly to the shooting phase. Alright, so now we are back after the shooting phase. As you can see, some incredible developments have taken place. First of all, what ended up happening is that my friend First Prince Belair took his bolt thrower, one of those Reigns of Caledor over here, as well as his Dawn Guard. They concentrated fire with longbow fire as well as multi-shots directly into my Vrenzo Gunners. Managed to kill 5 of those guys. Luckily for me, though, I did pass my panic test, so no harm, no foul there. Meanwhile, the other 2 Reigns of Caledor over here opened fire with their multiple shots directly into the Lucchini rifles. Managed to kill 4 of those guys as well, so I got pretty lucky on that one. Luckily for me, both of my handgun units do have devices on them, so because I do have some added bonus with armor protection as well as light armor, giving them 4-up armor saves for the most part against shooting, so that part was kind of nice. However, the most devastating thing that took place was over here with my thugs at Tabaro, my 5 Stratiotes. Unfortunately for me, my friend's Shadowrunners as well as his Word Bearers and Silent Striders. The 2 Illyrian units opened up with their longbows directly into the thugs of Tabaro. Managed to shoot those guys off the table, so that part was all kinds of pressing for me. So first blood goes directly to the High Elves, destroying my light cavalry options. And with that, that pretty much ends turn number 1. There is no close combat, so we skip the combat phase. And with that, we go directly to the bottom of turn number 1 for my army, the Miragliano Mercenaries. So we'll be right back after my movement phase. Alright, so we're back to the bottom of turn number 1 for my army, the Miragliano Mercenaries for the Dogs of War. And my turn was actually pretty unspectacular. When it came to the move phase, the only thing I did is I just basically marched over my Cursed Company into this gap between the 2 buildings over here, so that way they can intercept whatever cavalry charge comes in. I mean, the Cursed Company is a perfect target pitting unit, and that's exactly what I'm going to use it for in order to stop my enemies from advancing. Now, for the magic phase, my magic phase was pretty much a lackluster. The only thing I was able to get rid of was the Mystifying Miasma off on my Lucchini rifle, so that way they could have their normal ballista skill. The rest of the spells, I did try to cast the Withering as well as the Enfeebling Foe, but unfortunately my opponent was able to dispel those spells, no problem, so not much really happened. Now the real star of the show over was the shooting phase. As you can see in the backfield for the High Elves, it's pretty gruesome over here, and the reason why is because of all the destruction I caused. For the most part, I was able to fire both of my cannons from Bronzino's Galloper guns. They managed to bounce beautifully right through the Phoenix Guard, and when they actually bounced, they bounced 10 inches all the way through and managed to nail both of these bolt throwers as well. So I was able to destroy both the Reigns of Caledor, so those guys were gone. Same thing with kill a handful of Phoenix Guard as well. Unfortunately for First Prince Belair, his roared save just failed him, especially when I opened fire with my Leagonia, which is my La Tresta El Stasi, there we go, which is my Revolt. The Revolt opened fire and managed to put 8 shots directly into into the Ever Wardens, as well as my Lucini rifles able to open up with all 15 of their shots directly into this unit as well. Pretty much brought it down to almost half strength, so I'm really happy with that result. That makes this unit a lot less threatening. At the same time, I was able to fire off my Lagonia, which is basically my cannon. I was able to fire that off directly into the last of the Reigns of Caledor, managed to destroy that last repeater bolt thrower. At the same time, our Varenzo gunner was able to fire 10 shots because only 10 guys have line of sight directly into this unit. Managed to kill 5 of these guys, which is absolutely fantastic. So my Dogs of War army is operating exactly as intended, which was, of course, was to basically be powerful in the shooting phase and cause all kinds of problems as well. So that part is fantastic, and I'm loving the way this army is operating so far. So that pretty much ends turn number 1 for me. So with that being said, we go directly to the top of turn number 2 for my friend Fresh Prince Bel-Air. So we'll be right back after this turn 1 movement phase. Alright, so that takes directly to the top of turn number 2 for my buddy Fresh Prince Bel-Air, and as you can see, this is after the movement phase. And some important things have happened. First of all, I declared a charge with the Silver Sentinels. So because it does send his Silverhelm Knights charging directly into my Cursed Company, I managed to land that blow no problem, charging directly into Undead Unit as well. I am pretty confident on this one just because he only has 10 Silverhelm Knights, and I do have a huge unit of 36 Undead. So I'm pretty much liking my chances on that one, so that one I'm not too worried about. However, the one I am worried about, though, is over here with the Lucini rifles versus the Ever Wardens. The Ever Wardens managed to declare a charge, a long bomb charge directly across the battlefield, directly into them. So I only have 20 handgunners versus some Phoenix Guards, so I am kind of worried about those guys as well. Now, he does declare a charge with the Loremaster's Blades. Unfortunately, he does fail this charge going through the woods and directly towards my unit over here, which is Praz's Lost Legion. And unfortunately for me, when I went to fire my shots, I just flooded my rolls. It was so horrible. And so because not much really happened there, so that part was regrettable. However, that does expose him, which is kind of nice, which exposes him to my cannons as well as into my Revolt, as well as my cannon back there, as well as my crossbowmen. So hopefully I'll get another shot at him as well. At the same time, he also brings up his Dawn Guard. He just marches them up forward, their normal movement allowance, just so that way they can lend some support directly to these guys. He did have to march them up though, so because they will not be able to shoot this turn, but that's perfectly fine because they're already in column formation already. And of course, the very last thing that ended up happening over here, I'm going to just tilt my gimbal over here so you guys can see it. At the same time, he also brings up his Reaver Knights, moving them directly around the edge of the building there, so that way they can go directly towards the main line as well as catch up. And then lastly, the last thing that he decided to do was to march fly over Roast and Lainel as well as Pyrite, his Dragon Mage of Caledor. They basically flew directly from the top here and let it right smack dab on the right hand side of my unit as well. So I'm really looking forward to see exactly what happens there. I do have Gotrek as well as Felix in this unit, so hopefully they'll break off and go after them, which will be kind of cool to see exactly how Gotrek and Felix handle against a dragon, because that's exactly what they go after. They go after monsters. So I'm really excited to see exactly what happens there. So that pretty much makes it the move phase on this one. So the move phase over with, we go directly to the magic phase and be right back to talk about exactly what happens there. So we're back to the magic phase. Magic phase is pretty much lackluster. Tytos Lainel was able to cast Fireball directly onto Praz's Last Legion. He cast the level 2 version. Was able to kill 3 of my pikemen, so not much really happened there. At the same time, he also cast Earthblood directly onto his Loremaster's Blade, giving the 5 up regen saves. That way, if I do shoot at him, he does have some regeneration saves against that. And that pretty much makes up the magic phase on this one. So we skip the shooting phase because everything marched forward. And with that being said, we go directly to the combat phase with these units over here. And we'll come back with that here after this. Alright, so now we are back with the combat phase. As you can see, disaster pretty much struck for my guys. Lucini rifles did their best in order to try to stand up against the Ever Wardens, but unfortunately they just weren't strong enough. I was able to kill one of the Ever Wardens. Unfortunately, though, I lost 6 of my guys. I also fled as well. I lost another guy as he tried to retreat past Russell and Lainel, as well as Pyrite, so those guys are making their way directly to the hills. Hopefully I can rally them. If I can do that, hopefully I can start opening fire with some guns directly against those Illyrian Reavers over there on the right hand side as well. Meanwhile, combat between the Silver Sentinels as well as the Cursed Company was not that great. Unfortunately, I flooded my rolls, so I was unable to do anything against the Silver Sentinels. However, the Silver Sentinels were able to kill 6 of my guys. Needless to say, Fresh Prince Bel-Air won that combat. Managed to kill 4 more of my guys at the same time, so that part was pretty rough as well. And there you guys have it. That pretty much makes up the combat phase for turn number 2 for the High Elves. So with that being said, we go directly to the bottom of turn number 2 for my army, the Miragliano Mercenaries. We'll be right back after my movement phase. Alright, so that takes directly to the bottom of turn number 2 for the army, the Miragliano Mercenaries, and this is after the move phase. As you can see, not much movement really took place. However, the most dramatic movement, though, took place over here. First of all, I sent Gotrek Felix. They went charging out of Peraza's Lost Legion directly into Lainel as well as Pyrite, because Gotrek is a Troll Slayer, and Troll Slayers got to slay. Now, for the rest of the turn, it was actually pretty straightforward. I used the basically the fast cav rules for my Bronzinos Galloper guns. They basically moved back, making their way directly to around Peraza's Lost Legion. Had them set up directly behind the Lucchini rifles. The Lucchini rifles able to actually regain their nerve. So because of that, these cannons, as well as my handgunners, will be facing off directly against whatever cavalry comes their way. Unfortunately, Lucchini rifles will not be able to shoot, but the Galloper guns will be able to, because that's one of the cool things about that unit, as originally announced. So that part is kind of awesome as well. Now, as for the rest of my unit, Peraza's Lost Legion is still facing off against my opponents. That way I can shoot at them with crossbows. Hopefully kill some guys that way. Same thing with my Varenzo gunners. Hopefully they can cause some damage by shooting at people with their handguns directly into this unit. And of course, I keep Midas the Means Golden Company directly there to protect the flank. At the same time, my Cursed Company is still engaged in close combat with the Silver Sentinels. And that pretty much makes up my move phase for this one. So move phase over with, we go directly to the magic phase. Alright, so we're back to the bottom of the turn for the Miragliano Mercenaries, and this is after the magic as well as the shooting phases. Unfortunately for my shooting phase is pretty much lackluster, pretty much non-existent, unfortunately. I rolled Snake Eyes for the Winds of Magic, so because nothing much really happened there, so it was a complete wash. However, for the shooting phase though, I did manage to do a couple of things in the shooting phase which I'm pretty happy about. First of all, over here, as you can see, I managed to kill 3 members, I believe is of the Word Bearers. Managed to kill 3 of those guys using a combination of cannons as well as my Revolt in order to cause all kinds of damage, opening fire with those artillery pieces directly into that unit as well. Now, with the combination of both my cannon as well as Peraza's Lost Legion, I was able to kill a couple of members of this unit of the Lordmaster's Blades, but not as much as I originally had hoped for the most part, so that part was kind of sad. A sad development there. However, the most dramatic though was Varenzo's Gunners managed to open up directly into the Dawn Guard, managed to blow these guys to almost a quarter of their strength. I only got 4 more High Elves to go before these guys are absolutely dead. So with the shooting phase over with, we'll go directly to the combat phase between the Cursed Company and the Silver Sentinel, as well as Gotrek and Felix against Lainel and Pyrite. We'll be right back after the combat phase. Alright, so we're back to the bottom of turn number 2 after the combat phase for my army, the Miragliano Mercenaries, and destruction has raided upon the French Prince Bel-Air. So first of all, let's start with this really impressive combat over here. This one is actually between my 2 characters, Gotrek and Felix, Felix Jaeger and Gotrek Gurnison versus Lainel as well as Pyrite. So first of all, my opponent gets to go first, Lainel. He tries to throw his attacks directly into Felix Jaeger. Just because he'll have an easier time wounding him. Unfortunately for my friend First Prince Bel-Air, though, he failed his attacks, so not much happened there. I then elected to attack with Gotrek first. Gotrek Gurnison managed to kill Pyrite with 3 hits. Managed to hit him 3 times and wound him 3 times, so because of that, he was able to slay him with 6 wounds on a 5-wound dragon, killing the dragon immediately, which left Lainel the Wizard. I then had Felix Jaeger finish him off. Barely squeaked it by. My opponent was able to fill his armor save. He had to go on a ward save for 6 up. For his very last wound, he failed us because he got slaughtered there. So that part was absolutely fantastic. Hooray for my army. Now over here, on the other hand, over here, disaster strikes for Fresh Prince Bel-Air once again. Unfortunately for my buddy Fresh Prince Bel-Air, he did manage to kill 4 of the members of the Cursed Company, which is actually pretty good for him. However, though, when I did my counterattack, I managed to kill 3 of his Silverhelm Knights right off the bat. So because with my character Richter Kruger, so because I brought 3 more members back of the Cursed Company, and then the rest of my guys attacked, managed to kill 1 more Silverhelm Knight, which means that last undead guy that they killed managed to join my ranks, which means that I also won this combat by 4. In combination with my rank bonuses, I actually won this combat by, I believe I won this combat by 7 is what ended up happening. So because my opponent did have to take a break test on his unmodified leadership, he had to roll a Snake Eyes to stay. He failed. He fell back, I think 5 or 6 inches when he fell back. I pursued 11. So because of the Cursed Company managed to destroy the very last of these Silver Sentinels, which is absolutely fantastic as well. And that pretty much makes a combat phase for turn number 2. So with turn number 2 over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 3 for the High Elves, and we'll come back after my friend Fresh Prince Bel-Air's movement phase. Alright, so we're back after the top of turn number 3 for the High Elves for Fresh Prince Bel-Air's movement phase. And as you can see in this photo, he pretty much kind of goes on the aggressive. The first thing he does, of course, is he declares a charge with his unit, the Loremaster's Blade, his unit of White Lions. Those guys go tearing across the battlefield. I do manage to open fire with my crossbows. I think I managed to kill 3 of them is all I managed to do, so they charge directly into my front rank. So now Peraza's Lost Legions engage. At the same time, he also does the same thing, sending in the Wardens directly to the left-hand side of my unit. So now it's completely fighting 2 different units at the same time. Meanwhile, unfortunately for the Dawn Guard, they do try to declare a charge directly against the Renzo Gunners. The Renzo Gunners do open up. I do manage to kill, I think, 9 of them is what ended up happening. So because of that, they do break because of below 25%. Because they have the Battle Standard Banner in that unit, he automatically dies. There's only 1 guy left, and he is currently fleeing, heading for the hills. And I doubt that that guy will actually make a full recovery back. Meanwhile, over here on the left-hand side, the War Bearers do declare a charge against the Lucchini Rifles. I do stand to shoot as a reaction, killing the last 2 members of that unit left. So because of that, the Silent Striders then declare a charge next. And since I already shot the first time, I can't shoot a second time. So they charge directly into the 9-man unit. I'm not really too worried about that because they are just light cavalry. Hopefully I can stand another round of combat. And then, of course, I could just finish them off my cannons, hopefully, or my revolt. Hopefully I can take care of that. Unfortunately, I do have a bit of a traffic jam over here with my guys because my Paymaster's bodyguards in the Golden Cup are pretty much useless right now. So I do have to move these guys out of the way so that way I can charge directly into this flank. Meanwhile, Gotrek and Felix are hanging over here. Hopefully, my Peraza's Last Legion will survive for a little bit so that way I can send directly into the left-hand flank of this unit. Or hopefully I can send my Cursed Company to do exactly the same thing. Only time will tell. So that pretty much makes up the movement phase for this one. So now that the movement phase is over with, we go directly to the magic phase for Fresh Prince Bel-Air. Alright, so we go directly to the bottom of turn number 3. So the magic phase was pretty much a wash. My opponent was able to cast. The only thing my opponent was able to cast was Weason's Wild Form. He managed to cut that directly onto his Phoenix Guard. There was no shing in the combat phase. The combat phase was insane. So first of all, let's talk about what happened over here. First of all, the Silent Striders try to take on my Lucchini Rifles. They managed to kill 3 of my Lucchini Riflemen. I was able to kill 2 of theirs. So because I did lose combat by 1, but I managed to stand my ground, so I am perfectly fine. I'll live to fight another day. However, the real slaughter took place over here between the Wardens as well as the Loremaster's Blades versus my unit, Peraza's Lost Legion, led by Gerlach Backpowder, the Saint of Sartosa, who is my general. As you can see, it was an absolute bloodbath. They managed to kill, I think, 28 of my Peraza's Lost Legion. Yeah, they slaughtered my guys. In the end, I was able to kill 5 Phoenix Guard, which is absolutely fantastic. So that part was epic. So this unit's going to break automatically because it's below 25%. And I only managed to kill 4 members of the Loremaster's Blades. However, when it came from my leadership test, because I have to roll Snake Eyes to stand, I get it. So the first one, I failed miserably. I think I rolled like an 11 on the first one. So my second one, because I am within my Paymaster's chest over there, I get to reroll my leadership test. I reroll it, and I roll Snake Eyes. And just like that, I stand my ground against the High Elves, which is absolutely insane. So yes! Looks like the gods of fortune are with the Miragliano Mercenaries. So because of that, we go directly to the bottom of turn number 3 for the Dogs of War. We'll be right back after my movement phase. Alright, so we're at the bottom of the turn now for the Dogs of War for the Miragliano Mercenaries, and this is after my movement phase. And as you can see, some dramatic movement took place. First of all, I did charge in Gotrek Gurnison as well as Felix Jaeger. I declared my charge directly into the left-hand flank of the Loremaster's Blades. And I will not be able to challenge his general because Tywin Lainel is currently engaged in a challenge with my general Gerlach Blackpowder. So the 2 of them are fighting. However, I can challenge his Loremaster Tytos Lainel. Hopefully I can call that guy out and, fight him as well. So that'd be kind of cool. At the same time, I also did a swift reform real quick with my Renzo Gunners. They also just moved up forward their moment allowance. Just because this archer is going to be all that's left. And of course, these guys fled back, I think 9 or 10 inches what these guys fled back from. So they're going to be broken and they're not going to be able to come back, I don't think. Unless, of course, my opponent rolls Snake Eyes. I do a swift reform real quick with the first company and then have them move back to normal mood allowance so that way they can make their way directly to the main fight as well. Meanwhile, my Lucchini Rifles still engage in close combat with the Silent Striders, and everybody else is pretty much just kind of located where they're located at. So with that being said, that pretty much makes it the movement phase on this one. So with movement phase over with, we go directly to the magic phase. Right, so during the magic phase, I had a pretty successful one. I was able to get off 2 spells. The first one was, of course, a Feebling Foe. My opponent, of course, took all of his power dice and tried to stop that spell from going off. Unfortunately, though, he missed it by a landslide. He actually rolled a bunch of 1s and 2s, so because of that, his unit now has -3 to their strength. So now instead of having 6 strength, these guys only have 3 strength, when swinging with their great weapons, which is absolutely great for me because I need all the help I can get. At the same time, I also cast Hawkins Line Razor off directly onto my unit, Peraza's Lost Legion. So because of these guys are now Strength 9 against my opponent, which is really going to help out a lot, especially in the ensuing combat. And that pretty much makes the magic phase for that part. Now for the shooting phase is pretty simple. I just have my Revolt open up directly onto the Everwardens. I managed to wipe off the last of those Phoenix Guard just because it was feeling kind of petty and decided to eliminate that unit as well. So with the shooting phase and magic phase over with, we go directly to the combat phase between Peraza's Last Legion as well as Gotching Felix against the Loremaster's Blades, as well as my Lucchini Rifles versus the Silent Striders. So we will be right back after the combat phase. Alright, so that takes directly to the bottom of the turn of the combat phase. As you can see, the tide has certainly changed. So in the end, what ended up happening is that First Prince Belair and his Loremaster's Blades was able to kill 4 of my guys, as well as put a wound directly onto Godric Gurnison. What ended up happening is that he did make way with Tytos Lainel, his Lordmaster, to fight against Godric Gurnison. Once again, our generals did nothing to each other. Our generals were pretty much equipped similarly with 4 ward saves, heavy armor, and ogre blades, so we weren't able to do much of anything against each other. However, for the rest of our fights, it was actually quite telling. And the reason why is because my opponent was only strength 3 in this attack. He lost his strength bonuses from using his double-handed weapons. So his great weapons only killed 4 of my members of Peraza's Lost Legion. In the end, I was able to kill 9 of theirs in return because of Occam's Razor. Unfortunately, my weapon skill was not up to the task, so I didn't get as many attacks as I liked, but not complaining. Managed to kill 9 of these guys, no problem, which is absolutely fantastic. At the same time, Felix Jaeger wasn't able to do much of anything, but Godric Gurnison was able to kill Tytos Lainel. So in the end, I did win this combat. My opponent did have to take a break test, and he failed it. He rolled a 10 to run, and I rolled 11 to pursue, so I run these guys down and kill them all at the same time. At this point, my friend First Prince Belair calls the game because the only thing he has left are the Silent Striders, and that brings us to our very first victory for my army, the Miragliano Mercenaries, for my Dogs of War army. So, not bad. It was a hard-won fight. It was very, very brutal. I actually made a lot of tactical mistakes with this army, because I'm starting to use this army for the very first time, so I learned quite a bit about that. But we'll talk about that in a sec. We're going to talk about that in the After Action report, because this game is now officially over.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
Sure, I could have stayed in the past. Could have even been king. But in my own way, I am king. Hail to the king, baby.
Alright people, now it's time for the After Action report. This is the part of the battle report we talk about what went well, what went poorly, and what we can learn for the next time that we do battle. This is the After Action report for the Golden Age battle report number 142, and this one ended up being a victory for yours truly. In the end, I was able to score 3,205 victory points, and my opponent Fresh Prince Belair only scored 320. For Fresh Prince Belair, he lost Lord Tywin Lainel, the Silver Warden of Caledor, Tytos Lainel, the Loremaster of Caledor, Tanis Lainel, the Captain of the Dawn Guard, Rosso Lainel, and Pyrite, the Silver Sentinels, the Word Bearers, the Dawn Guard, the Loremaster's Rangers, the Everwardens, as well as the Reigns of Caledor. For my losses, I lost the Thugs of Tabaro, as well as the Lucchini Rifles. So, first and foremost, I was extremely lucky in this battle because I made a ton of tactical errors on this. My left flank was all but open on this battle, and luckily the only reason why I survived is because I had Godric and Felix to help me out on this one, because if it wasn't for them taking out Ross and Lainel as well as Pyrite, this battle would have been over very, very quickly, and that dragon mage would have just torn me apart if it wasn't for that. At the same time, the Golden Company as well as my special character Midas the Mean were pretty much useless in this entire battle because of bad positioning. I was lucky I survived as long as I did on this one, and if it wasn't for that insane courage on the reroll, I would have lost this battle because those guys would have been ran down, and because of that, my character Nightmare Niccolo wouldn't have been around to cast Enfeebling Foe and Occam's Razor to tip the balance between the Loremaster's Rangers as well as Peraza's Lost Legion. I would have lost. I doubt my Mercenaries Bodyguard would have been able to do much against that unit as well, so because of that, luck was what really helped me on this one. I don't feel this was a good test for my army because of all the mistakes that I made, and luck is nothing to rely upon in warfare, and this battle pretty much shows it, because that was the only reason why I was able to survive at all. Now, to be fair, I haven't played Warhammer in about 6 months, so this is probably why I made so many tactical mistakes on this battle, because it's been so long since I played Warhammer Fantasy, but hopefully I'll get my act together for the next battle so that way I can really decide if what I'm doing is really working, if the way my list is working, like as opposed to instead of just relying upon luck and lucky die rolling to save my life on the tabletop. But with that being said though, It does feel really good to be playing Warhammer Fantasy again. Like I said, it's been about 6 months since I got my last game in, and my gaming group and I are finally able to meet on a regular basis again to play. And I gotta admit to you, it was very, very difficult during that time period when we couldn't as well. Real life hit my gaming group and I pretty hard, with a couple of my friends being laid off from work, a couple of my friends getting surgeries and health things and all kinds of stuff. So we couldn't really meet up, and that's why there was such a dry spell for battle reports on my channel for the longest time as well. And because it was very, very difficult for us to meet up, but now things are starting to stabilize again, and now we can actually meet up and play on a regular basis again. So it was really, really nice. So hopefully we can keep this up, and we can keep on meeting on a regular basis and keep on bringing you guys amazing content. Now, all in all, this was still an amazing game, even though I got off really lucky on this one against a really fun opponent, Fresh Prince Bel-Air. And as always, I look forward to the rematch against him at any time, any place, because he's a fun guy to play against, especially since it's been about 6 months since I was able to play against him last time. So I'm really appreciative of the time I get to actually play my war games with my friends again. So that's good to those you guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us. As always, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest greatest hobby news related to this channel. That's good for this one, you guys. We will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out and stay classy.